I visited Gaza very many times over the years, and I remember once going there and Yasser Arafat proudly showing me the newly completed but not yet in use airport that had been built so that Gaza could communicate directly with the rest of the world. That airport not only was never used, but is now a total wreckage, as is so much of Gaza. What has been happening in the Middle East is, to me, one of the most tragic aspects of a failure of human beings to understand each other, but it's in a material way. I remember very well when Yitzhak Rabin, murdered by a Jewish extremist, was Minister of Defense, and I went to see him and told him that he had to talk to Arafat, and he said he would never talk to Arafat. And I said, if you don't talk to the Fatah, then you will have to talk to Hamas. He did talk to the Fatah and was murdered because of it. And we are now in a position in which the democratic will of the people of Gaza certainly was expressed in an election, and the world has failed to recognise the outcome of the election and the consequences of it. My very good friend Abba Eban, the former foreign minister of Israel, with whom I shared many peace platforms, once said, "You only make peace by talking to your enemy." And this is something that the Israelis fail to understand, very much to their own detriment. They have created for themselves Israel as a ghetto, walled in illegally, with another illegal wall apparently about to be built. And I find it tragic that they, of all people, fail to recognise that human suffering transcends politics, and the human suffering in Gaza has to be ended. And I believe that the curiously named war that they launched a year ago, Operation Cast Lead, has marked a turning point in the perception of many millions of people. Jenny talked about the United States. Unfortunately, the AIPAC pressure group in the United States can destroy any politician of any political party who speaks out in the way that we speak. But we are going there. We are not going as a stunt, and we are not going as a demonstration. We are going as a serious delegation, first of all, to ascertain the situation as it now exists. Some of you may have seen Ross Kemp's documentary on Sky One recently, which was a heartrending documentary, but also to report back. I have already arranged to report back both to the Foreign Secretary here and to the International Development Secretary here, whose record, I must say, is superb on this issue. This is not a one-off event, however important it is. It is part of a process, and as Jenny Tom says, and as the rest of us are determined, we are going to go on until this problem is solved, because it is not simply the suffering people of Gaza, but it is the people throughout the Middle East and in the wider world who have this issue, which is a blemish that has to be cured. So we will report back when we come back, but meanwhile, as I say, we are extremely grateful to you for coming here at such short notice, and we will between us do our very best to answer any questions you'd like to put. And as I said earlier to the lady in the corner place, it would be helpful to us if you gave us your name and the media source that you're representing here today.
My name is Rosie. I'm representing the Asians, the website. The question is, I have two questions. First is, will you be allowed, you're hopeful that will you be allowed to go into Gaza? And secondly is, don't you think the Western media has been played a biased role to highlight this issue, even it was in the burning situation there?
That we'll get in.
Well, yes, yes, we've got permission from
Arafat has been sweating blood to get that.
It took me 3 months.
The man's lost many kilos in this process.
Finally, actually, just 3 days ago, we've got the permission from the Egyptian authorities that saying we are allowed to go into Gaza, and as I mentioned earlier, we also going to meet with the Egyptian officials, Egyptian Foreign Minister, the Speaker of the House, and Amr Moussa, the General Secretary of the Arab League.
And on the
So
bias.
we get into Gaza on Friday.
Sorry?
The second question was, isn't the Western media biased on this question?
I think the Western media has changed a very great deal as a result of Operation Cast Lead. There is a bias. There are newspapers in this country, like the Guardian and the Independent, which do report objectively. That cannot be said of all of the newspapers. I believe that Channel 4 has made very great efforts to report on this and has broadcast some extremely important documentaries. And as I say, only in the last few days, the well-known East End actor Ross Kemp broadcast a documentary. He was there in Gaza for a month, and he presented the facts. So, yes, there has been a media bias, and this media bias has, to a very considerable degree, been influenced by the Jewish pressure groups in this country, who, as I've said in Parliament, are totally unrepresentative of the Jewish community in this country. The Board of Deputies of British Jews represents itself and nobody else. And there are a couple of other organisations which just constitute themselves without election. Their pressure does have effects, there's no doubt whatever about it. But when I was elected to Parliament in 1970, God help me, this is the 40th anniversary of my election to the House. When I was elected to Parliament, there was a very large group of Labour members of Parliament who were totally committed to Israel, right or wrong. That no longer is so. I can't think of more than 2 or 3 now who, for constituency reasons, take the Israeli side. But we now have a very large number of Labour members of Parliament who are strongly pro-justice for Palestine, and other political parties too have their members. Whatever else we're doing on this event, we'll do different things in different places. This is not a party political delegation. This is an all-party delegation from all parts of Europe, right through to Slovakia. So yes, but one of the things that we are seeking to do is to combat media bias, but as you will know very well indeed, there are different kinds of media now. And if I may refer to a speech I made in the House of Commons a year ago, people are still watching it on YouTube. 322,000 people have watched it, and I've had reactions from all over the world. I don't say that through personal vanity, but to make clear that we make a big mistake, both as politicians and as journalists, and I'm a member of the National Union of Journalists, to believe that people can't think for themselves. That confronted with the facts, they will not make up their own mind. They are making up their own mind.
My name is Nazar Javed, and I am representing a Pakistani TV channel, Dunia TV, and the Nation newspaper in London. My question is this, it's a great effort that you are going to Palestine, and Lord Ahmed continuously pursuing us all over the whole of the year about this problem, and he is also facing problem due to this as well from different quarters. But my question is, you are going to Palestine to Gaza, but the main problem lies within other side of the border is Israel. The solution, they have to give the solution. Do you have any plan to go to Israel as well to pressurize them to end this siege and
To pursue them to end the siege.